Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Huffman. I'm the Director of Sales at Polaris Retirement Community, and I am joined today by Tracy Brannon, our Executive Director, and Matt Burton, who will be leading our therapy team here at Polaris thanks to Home Health Connections. And they're here to speak to you about maximizing your independence. So we are looking forward to what they have to say, and thank you for joining us.
Great.
Hello, Matt.
Hello there, Tracy. So thank you very much for having me during this duration. Definitely looking forward to helping as many people as I can and hopefully sharing a thing or two in which they might be able to benefit from. So maximizing your independence. So pretty much it all starts from day one. When we are born with the tools to be safe. So we develop in the proper way, so we can learn to walk, we learn to talk, we learn to do all of these things, and we have everything that we need at a younger age as well. So going into your 20s, your 30s, everything is very learned and natural. However, as we age, some things we don't do as well as we used to do. So there's just some things that we need to learn and that we need to practice a bit more just to keep us as safe as possible so we can remain as independent as possible and do the things that we love to do on a day-to-day basis. So for today, I'm going to be breaking up into about 3 categories on what each of those consist of and kind of diving into those. So Tracy, if you have any questions of any type, just stop me and ask away, and I would love to answer anything that you might have for me.
Absolutely.
So, awesome. So starting off with strength. So obviously you can never have too much strength, especially as we get older. So say you're sitting in a lower chair, and say this low chair has no arms to push off of. So as you might imagine, if you're sitting in this type of chair, when you go to stand up, it's going to use a lot of your legs to be able to propel yourself up. And if the chair is low enough, you might use so much energy and exertion on just standing that when you go to walk, whether it's outside to go to your doctor's appointment, it's to go to the bathroom, it's to just go to a different appointment, there's going to be so much energy on whether it's standing from that low chair, getting out of bed that uses core strength. Anything in which you don't have the proper amount of strength, when you go to walk to your destination, the more tired you are, the higher risk you're going to have at falling. And that is one thing that we have to limit and eliminate if at all possible. Because as we age, our bones, they aren't as dense as they once were when we're younger. So one fall obviously can result in something very drastic in which we, by all means, want to avoid. However, strength is not the only thing that we need. This is where balance comes into play as the second aspect, to where you truly can't have one without the other. Strength and balance are equally as important. And this is where I'll probably share a few things that you either A, might not have heard of or been made aware of, or two, you might have heard of at one point, but no one's really explained it to you before. So I'm more than happy to share some of these details. So balance consists of 3 different categories. Your first category is called the vestibular system. So what this system is inside your ear, about in the middle part of your ear, we have these crystals. So when one of these crystals are misaligned, even by the most minuscule amount, our head feels like it's constantly spinning. So like we're constantly in a merry-go-round all day long whenever one of those crystals are misaligned. So obviously, whenever you stand, whenever you're walking, when one of those crystals move, and it can happen from just standing up, you're obviously going to take a drastic increase of falling. So that's something in which we obviously want to prevent, because when you're consistently dizzy, That's one of the last things you want to do is get up and walk around, let alone stand up and do an activity. So the longer you sit because if you're dizzy, obviously your body, it takes the shape of the surface in which you're sitting on. And it also adapts to the amount of energy that that surface has. So obviously a chair doesn't have any life in it. It has no energy. So when you sit there, you're thereby going to lose some of that energy, some of that strength, because you're sitting for so long. Our bodies weren't meant to sit in one spot. We were meant to move, to navigate different environments. That's what our bodies were created to do, back to the beginning. So we actually have it set up to where a lot of people are not aware of this, but when any one of those crystals are out of place, therapy can assist with that. It's just something in which involves putting the crystals back into place to prevent that consistent dizziness from occurring.
So excuse me, Matt, with this vestibular, if someone is, having these symptoms of feeling that, that merry-go-round, would you suggest that that they need to share this with their physician so that then they can direct them to maybe order some therapies to help with this vestibular?
Absolutely. I mean, in this incident of one of the crystals being misaligned, it could have happened or started to occur when they were in their 20s or in their 30s. But what the body does is it's a magnificent vehicle, is it adapts and it compensates for things. But as we get older, the compensations aren't as good as they used to be. So it starts to wear down. It starts to get more tired and not as willing to compensate. So that's when you start to notice the effects of your crystals being misaligned. Some people get it from having the flu when they're 27, or when they have a big sneeze during a cold. All of that is how easy it can be to lose that. So that's why dizziness is actually the most common occurrence somebody over the age of 65 will experience on a day-to-day basis. I know that's scary, but that's the most common thing somebody will experience every day after they're 65 and older. So if you are feeling dizzy by any means, even if that means when you first get out of bed in the morning, randomly throughout the day, or maybe you get what we call dizzy spells. You just feel dizzy a day or two at a time, or even a week. It's vital that you contact your doctor to kind of see what's going on there, so they can at least assess and see how we can help you, because vestibular issues can be corrected by, like what Tracy said, by getting some physical therapy and just kind of seeing what's going on, but it has to be identified first.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely. That's one of the more unknown things out there, in which someone doesn't really know why they're so dizzy, but it can be identified, and there is a way to assist it, but you have to be willing to go get the help. So that's the first aspect of balance. And then second aspect of balance are actually these little sensors that everybody has on the bottom of their feet. And what these sensors tell us is what type of surface that we're on. So if I were to close my eyes and stand up here, my feet would be telling my brain that I'm on a harder surface. But if I was out in grass, it'd be telling me, okay, I'm on a softer surface. Or if I was on a plush carpet, it would be relaying those signals to my brain with nerves in my feet. But as we get older, nerves don't fire at the same rate. And obviously sometimes with other conditions as neuropathy or multiple sclerosis, those nerves don't fire at all. So there's no signals being sent to your brain, so your brain doesn't know what kind of surface you're on, and that's when you start to fall, or when you're stepping down from different levels of surfaces. So that's why those sensors, as that we call them, is so important that they're working properly. And if they're not, like I was just mentioning, you're going to increase your risk of falling drastically. So, and then your third and final aspect of the balance is your vision. And it doesn't matter who you are. You can be Superman, you can be anybody. When you get older, your eyes don't work as well as they did when you were 20. That's just the common truth. Our eyes are made up of many little, what they call intrinsic muscles, and over time those muscles, they stretch, they bend, they just get overused, and they get weaker as we get older, and we try to compensate for that even through life by wearing glasses, by using a magnifying glass, wearing contacts. But when the lights go off in the room at night, it doesn't matter what glasses you have on, you're not going to be able to see as well. So that's when, obviously, your vision is going to go down and your fall risk is going to go up. So when any one of those three aspects are decreased, which is the vision, the vestibular system, or the sensors in your feet, whenever those three are decreased, your fall risk goes up. So that's why we want to keep those systems working properly. However, like I was mentioning with the vision, for example, some stuff we can't control, and this is just going to happen. But that's why strength and balance are intertwined, is because when one of those three systems are not working as well, and I know that you can't see me, my whole body right now, but I'm going to run through on why strength is important, is whenever we lose our balance, we rely on three different what we call strategies. So if you can envision this, when you're first standing up, say if you're walking on a tightrope or something very thin surface, and you're balancing yourself, you rely a lot on your ankles, your ankle strength, to prevent yourself from falling off that tightrope. That's the first muscular group that your body relies on to prevent yourself from falling. But sometimes your ankles don't have the power, don't have the strength. Those are small muscles, so you still continue to fall. That's when your hips come into play. So if you're falling forward, so I'm falling forward, my hips will push me back. So my hips will go the opposite direction, and your hips are a very powerful, very big muscular group. So that's when those will counteract the way that you're falling and prevent yourself from falling. But sometimes there's that loss of balance is still greater than your muscular strength in your hips. That is when, if you're falling forward, your whole leg will actually step, what we call a stepping strategy, step in that direction, and your whole leg, the strength of your whole leg, will hold you up. So this question, Tracy, you can definitely answer this. What do you think will happen if the strength of my legs and my arms aren't strong enough to hold me up?
Well, then I'm going to have difficulties with
Yes,
balance.
exactly. And the probability of me falling is probably
Yes.
going to hit dang near 100%.
Yes.
Because I'm not going to be strong enough.
Well, and I think, when you were talking about our ankles, I think it's really important that people know that when they're at home and they're sitting in their favorite chair watching television, I think it's really important that they, are rotating their ankles, clockwise, counterclockwise, doing that during commercials,
Yep.
Taking their feet, just up and down, doing circles to help those ankles, the small muscles in there.
Absolutely.
So it's really important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what you're just describing there, not only are you using those muscles, but you're circulating that blood flow. So just enough right there can push that blood throughout your legs enough to keep everything moving, to keep everything loose and limber. So when you do stand up, it doesn't feel like you're doing something foreign. Your muscles are being utilized. They're used to that movement. So when you go to stand up, your body's gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm used to this. To where it doesn't require that big warm up because you've constantly been moving that blood flow. So fantastic recommendation is doing those ankle pumps, doing some seated marching. I mean, if you're at risk of falling, anything that you do in your chair, or even in bed, I mean, anything you can do to move your legs around and keep yourself mobile without actually physically standing, any range of motion you can do is only going to make you healthier in the long run when you do have to go out to the community, go to your doctor's appointments. Because it only, I'm sorry, Tracy, what were you going to say?
Well, no, I was just going to mention, I know that another question that we hear from older adults is, why is it when I go, after I've been sitting in my chair and I go to get up, my hips hurt, my knees hurt?
Yeah, that's a great question. Whenever somebody sits in a chair, so you just described a chair, So if you're thinking of a normal chair, whether it's a kitchen chair, just a normal office chair, it's at a 90-degree angle. So your hips are sat in that 90-degree angle, your knees are at a 90-degree angle. It's just consistently like this. So over the many hours that you're sitting there, whether it's watching your TV show, reading a book, resting, taking a nap, anything along those lines, whenever your joints are at this point and they're not bending and moving and rotating, it's going to take shape of that surface. So when you go to stand up, especially if you're sitting there for hours and hours on end, days on days, weeks on weeks, months on months, and etc. When you go to stand, your body's going to be like, what is this? I don't understand what this position is, being straight up. So that's when you see people hunched over, bent over, and they can't straighten their legs out because they're used to this and not this. So those joints, they're not producing what they call synovial fluid, and this is actually what arthritis is it's a lack of synovial fluid, which is a natural fluid that everybody has in their joints. And what that does is it lubricates the joint and it allows it to move properly. So your knee, for example, is flexes, which is that flexing pattern in extension, which is a straight line when it extends. So whenever that joint doesn't have enough synovial fluid, it can't move in those two ranges efficiently. And sometimes that joint completely dries up, in which is obviously severe arthritis, in which you're going to have a lot of pain anytime you are moving that knee from point A to point B.
So do you have any suggestions? Are you saying that really then people really need to probably making sure that they're getting up out of their chair? During certain periods and moving around, even if it is for like 5 to 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Any activity you can do to increase your physical well-being, taking an extra walk during the day. And by a walk, I don't mean around the neighborhood. I mean just walking around your home, maybe an extra lap, or getting up every hour or two. All of that's going to make your muscles work and just make them remember what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying, our bodies are not meant to stay still, but our bodies are smart. So if you sit in one spot for too long, your body's going to get accustomed to that and be like, well, I don't got to do this anymore. I just have to sit all day. So then when you work it again, it's going to be like, oh, what the heck is this? I didn't sign up for this. And then it's going to backtrack. But you can help it. So no matter how immobile you are right now, if you're sitting here watching this and you're thinking, I can't get up by myself, it hurts too much, or every time I get up, I'm so tired, it can always get better. Even if that means doing, like Tracy said, moving your ankles, moving your hips, moving your legs a little bit, laying down in bed at night, sitting down, watching your favorite show. Any way that you can move your legs and effectively get that blood flow and use those muscles is going to help you advance to the next step of where you want to be in your life.
Yeah, Matt, one of the things that we suggest, I assist with teaching a Matter of Balance class at Source Point. And during our class, one of the suggestions that we give to our participants is before they get ready to stand is to kind of like rev their feet. We have them like tap their, so rev that engine, and it just kind of gets the blood flowing and gets your body ready to stand up.
Exactly.
So, keep that revving your engine in mind before you get ready to stand up. So
that is so true. I mean, and if you hear in sports and other categories, and they say keeping your muscles warm, keeping them moving, stretching, that is vital. You just can't, if you do any sort of physical activity on what you just said, a cold muscle or something along those lines. I mean, there's no blood flow. And a cold muscle is a lot harder to stretch and move in comparison to a warm muscle or one that has blood in it. So like you said, like any sort of massage, any sort of rubbing of that's going to promote more blood to the area in which you're rubbing, meaning it's going to move a lot easier. So anything you can do, like Tracy's class, that sounds wonderful, Tracy, to be able to provide that. So, I mean, anything like that sounds fantastic. And like you said, though, even sitting at home by yourself, you can do things to help yourself and to make you more independent.
And when you were just talking about, and we were both talking about, just getting up and taking a walk around the house, there are some individuals that utilize walkers, utilize canes. And sometimes a question that we hear is, well, or a statement is, well, I'm just walking around my house, so I don't use my cane. I do not use my walker. What are your thoughts on that when they're walking around in their own home without their device?
Yeah, so I mean, whenever someone's not walking in their home with their device, I would go along the lines and be as severe as 75% of the time, maybe more. They're bending over and they're grabbing something, whether it be their furniture or their kitchen chair, or their countertop, anything that's stable to provide some support and take the weight off their legs and onto their arms. And they do that because they just said what you stated. I'm in my home. I don't need that. I got things to grab onto. If I start to lose my balance or I get too tired, I got things to grab onto. But two things will happen. Whenever you're reaching for things, you're reaching out of your base of support. And your base of support is what's directly right in front of you. So whenever you got to bend over and reach, you're actually increasing your risk of falling drastically, especially the older you get. And two, whenever you're bending consistently like that, you're putting a lot of torque on your back. You're not standing up straight anymore. You're not giving the spine its natural curve. Whenever you do that, you're putting a lot of pain, not pain, but a lot of tension on a spinal cord and vertebrae that as we get older, the chance of them having a compression fracture or fracturing anything along those lines is going to go up because like we were talking about earlier, the density of your bones isn't as great as it used to be. So utilizing your walker, if you have a walker or a cane, it's of vital importance to use it in every single room you go, no matter what room it is, even if you're taking a few steps, because that's going to make you stand up straight. It's going to give you the proper posture so that when you do walk outside, you're not going to have that bent over hunchback look, because that's what a lot of people get. And I know when I was little, and a lot of people probably think it when they're little, why is that person bending over so much when they walk? And people don't understand why. It's your back's so tight. It's just, it feels like that's the only position you can be in to have some sort of relief. And you can't, some people can't physically stand up straight because of how their spine is shaped and how those muscles are so tight. Bending over is the only option they have to reduce pain. So anything you can do to promote the optimal posture, and your spine is of vital importance. It connects right to your brain, which is obviously the most important control center that we have. So any way you can help that natural spinal curve and your posture and all those muscles, it's only going to make you healthier in the long run. So great question, Tracy.
Well, thank you. I know you also mentioned, when you were talking about the vision, I think it's also important to always enlighten people about proper lighting.
Yep, exactly.
The proper lighting, especially, I think we find where falls tend to happen more at night.
Yes.
In people's bedrooms and in the bathroom, because people are getting up in the middle of the night. And so really, I think, not only the vision, but just making sure that people have proper lighting, even if it's keeping a flashlight at their bedside, having night lights. So I think that goes along with some of that vision of just having that proper lighting.
Absolutely. I mean, that is key. I'm always going to recommend to somebody, in which obviously I'm speaking in a perfect world. Not everyone can have this and be in the position to have this, but any sort of motion lights, in which obviously you can put in lamps,
Perfect.
anything.
Yes.
Yeah. To where you get up in the middle of the night to move. Cause I know how I am. When I gotta go to the bathroom at night, I get up and I go. That's the last thing I'm thinking about, is making sure, oh, let's turn the light on. I'm not thinking about that. So any sort of motion light that you don't have to process that in your brain, it just kicks on, it is only going to help.
Perfect.
So, I mean, just having that thought in your head, or Tracy, beautiful thought is having a flashlight by your bed. That will give you that visual cue to remind you to grab that flashlight, rather than just having a light switch. So yeah, that is a fantastic idea, is utilizing, even a small flashlight's going to help.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I think you've given us a lot of great things to think about, and people I'm sure are going to have, more questions, and they can reach out to us through the Coalition of Preventing Falls. And it's really exciting that we could have this conversation during this week of celebrating preventing falls.
Absolutely. So, and I cannot stress enough to everyone who's listening to this, I'm going to say a very blunt statement, and it's, you don't know what you don't know. I was blessed enough to be able to go to school to learn a little bit about physical therapy, but I didn't go to school to learn about fashion, for example. So I'm not going to know a lot about fashion. And like many of you, you probably didn't go to school to learn about physical therapy, and that's okay. That's why I'm on this call. That's why Tracy's on this call, is to try to either help you and give you some advice or answer some of your questions that you might not know, or we can get you to the person who can help you. We don't obviously claim to know everything. We just want to help you. So by any means, if you're sitting there and you think like, hey, this doesn't apply to me, I'm too weak, I'm too old. I can tell you, I've personally worked with somebody over the age of 100, and they've improved immensely. So it doesn't matter what's going on right now in your life, what disorder you might have, how old you are. I promise you, things can always get better, and you deserve to get better. You deserve to do the things that you love to do every single day for the rest of your life, even if it's modified or anything. You deserve to improve, and you got to give yourself that shot. Tracy can't make you do it. I can't make you do it, but you got to believe internally, and we'll give you the support, the best support we can along the way.
Well, thank you very much. And we want to thank everybody who joined us today, and stay upright, everybody.